Hey, so there's an update in the case of Miss Sadie Roberts-Joseph, the 75-year-old community activist in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. If you recall, she founded that city's first African American History Museum, and she held an annual Juneteenth celebration at that museum. Friday of last week, sometime around 4 p.m., she was found dead in the trunk of her car. An autopsy determined that she had died due to being choked or strangled to death, so the death was ruled a homicide. And there's been an arrest. The suspect is Ron Jermaine Bell. He was one of her tenants at a rental property, and apparently his DNA was found on her body. He was around $1,200 behind in rent, although the police investigating the case are saying they're not 100% sure if that was a motive. But this story is just really sad. I mean, a 75-year-old woman would not have been able to defend herself against a man that was basically half her age, unless she'd had a weapon. Now, another thing about this case is that Ron Jermaine Bell was a convicted sex offender. He had been convicted in the past of raping a 9-year-old child. And that leads me to question why Miss Roberts Joseph would have felt comfortable being around this guy. And that there's a larger conversation about the ways that as Black people we tend to downplay the evil and the deviancy associated with people who are able to prey on children, and really the evil and the deviancy of anyone who could commit any crime that's sexually based. People like that, you really have to be careful around them, because the thing in a person's mind that would allow them to do something like that, in my opinion, means that there's pretty much no crime that they wouldn't commit. Because one of the sickest and most depraved things that you could do is to do something to hurt a child. And so to me, the fact that he was able to just violate a 9-year-old child, it does not surprise me that the same person would be able to violate and murder a 75-year-old woman, because he's the type of person that preys on people who he believes are weaker than him. So children and the elderly. And so, I don't want to go too far into that conversation, but I would just say, women, particularly those of us who are Black women, we really have to understand that, if you find out that someone around you has been sexually abusing anyone, but especially children, that's a person that you need to stay away from, because that's a person who would hurt anyone. That's a person who would stoop to the lowest of the low to hurt you or anyone else to get what they want. So my condolences to the family of Miss Sadie Roberts-Joseph. And again, Black women, please be vigilant. We need to protect ourselves at all ages, because it's really dangerous for us to be walking around just unprotected in so many situations. And the interesting thing to me is that at the end of this particular article, law enforcement was saying that they didn't believe that this was a hate crime. To me, we may want to rethink that, because when you look at the rates of violence against Black women, and you look at all of the rage displayed against Black women all over the media and all over social media, there are a number of black men who have this seething hatred for black women. And I do think that we should start to think about ways to have certain crimes like this treated as hate crimes. You know, but he has been charged with first-degree murder, so if convicted, then he should spend the rest of his life behind bars. It's just unfortunate that this woman's life was robbed from her in her golden years, and it's also unfortunate to me that if she knew that he was a convicted sex offender, it's unfortunate to me that she still viewed him as suitable enough to be a tenant. Anyway, you all, I hope you all have a good day, and I'll talk to you soon.